June 22nd marked 50 years since the infamous Cuyahoga River fire. From Cleveland, Rick Jackson of PBS affiliate WVIZ reports on half a century of improvements some say were inspired by a single image.
Let's start with that infamous photo. Time magazine publishing this image of a tugboat fighting flames. But this is not the June 22, 1969 fire it's said to depict, which was so small and extinguished so quickly that there are no pictures. Truth be told, fires were common on rivers across the industrial heartland. Through the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, numerous rivers in Cleveland, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, and Detroit were seen as little more than sewers. The photo, perhaps the image responsible for creation of today's Environmental Protection Agency, is from 17 years earlier, of a blaze that did require fireboats on the Cuyahoga and cost $300,000 in damages, $2.9 million in 2019 currency. After that mistakenly named photo was published, the fire that wasn't seen is now known as the last river fire in America. But this American river, now designated as scenic, was always a tale of two ecosystems. One of them began as the glaciers receded, some 11,000 years ago. The era left us somewhat acidic waters when the glacier receded. Blocked by ice, north-flowing rivers turned south to escape, creating the meandering routes that permeate northeast Ohio, especially the source water of what indigenous peoples would later dub the Crooked River. We went to talk to the expert on these lands, the Geauga Park District's Dan Best.
Where we are right now, Lake Aquila, is an example of a lake that was formed here by these glacial outwash deposits, these sandstone hills. A lot of water moves through that Sharon conglomerate sandstone. It's very permeable and works its way into the valleys off the uplands, and that's what really is feeding the river. And we have some of these wetlands mixed in here too that they're all part of that drainage system too.
Ecologically, how important is this?
Whatever happens up here impacts things downstream. Fortunately, our watersheds are fairly well protected up here by a variety of public lands and other preserved lands.
Keep coming, keep coming. Oh, they're coming right to us.
Here we are, we just show up and they just turned up here. People wait years for this opportunity.
Oh, yeah, he went down. There was a time we couldn't have come out here and seen eagles. What does it say about the health of the river that we can support that kind of wildlife?
Bottom line, improve water quality.
But in the mid to late 20th century, the water downstream from these idyllic spots wasn't in condition for much of anything. Archival footage shows lines of factories along the banks of the river, and a 1967 documentary categorized the situation thusly.
The Cuyahoga River, as it reaches Lake Erie after a 100-mile twisting and turning journey from its headwaters, is an exhausted stream, abused and misused by man and his machines.
Purposeful polluting of the Crooked River is traceable back to the Civil War. By the early 20th century, there were upwards of 20 oil refineries in Greater Cleveland. With little regard for the outcome, a common practice for refiners was to just eject unusable portions of refined crude oil straight into the water outside the plants, which they increasingly used as a growing industrial dumping ground. Reports of the time indicate hundreds of thousands of barrels of thick crude floating down creeks to the river. Combined, it left the water and banks along the narrow channel saturated with gasoline. Not only refineries, but steelmakers, chemical firms, paint companies, and shippers were all dumping waste. Sludge could literally be scooped from the waterway by hand. In 1967, Carl Stokes was elected the first black mayor of a major American city and inherited a river pollution problem at its height. But Cleveland had many other issues to deal with, and ecology wasn't high on the docket. Yet Mayor Stokes, not previously recognized as an ecologist, fought hard to protect and rejuvenate the water.
We have the kind of air and water pollution problems in these cities that are every bit as dangerous to the health and safety of our citizens as any intercontinental ballistic missiles.
Today, efforts to clean the Cuyahoga start upstream, long before the industrially used portion of the river. Just before it enters the Cuyahoga Valley National Park, north of Akron, Ohio, is this water reclamation plant, where sewage and residue from 300,000 plus customers and the overflow from overtaxed storm drains combines. Were it not for the cleansing here, all that waste would flow unchecked into the river. Tom Sanderson oversees the 75 acres facility.
This is the flow for our entire collection system comes in here. Believe it or not, the water that we put into the river is usually cleaner than the river water.
You feel like people take you for granted?
I don't know if people take us for granted, but I think a lot of people just don't know what it is that we do and what it takes. What it takes to treat what you flush down the toilet or put down your shower, or comes out of your washing machine.
But the larger issue was never about toilets. Following coverage of the Cuyahoga River fire, signing of the Clean Water Act was expedited. The Federal Environmental Protection Agency was created just after the first Earth Day in 1970 at the behest of President Richard Nixon. Then, in 1972, the Great Lakes Water Quality Agreement committed the United States and Canada to restoring and protecting the Great Lakes. The battle to clean water was underway. 47 years of effort later, the river is a living and life-sustaining element of city life. The Ohio Environmental Protection Agency continually monitors municipal and industrial discharges, urban runoff, and unintended organic enrichment, protecting aquatic life. Since the fire, the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District has invested roughly $3.5 billion toward purification and development of new sewer systems. Recreation from paddleboarding to rowing, Cleveland now ranking among the top 10 American rowing hubs, to family boating is commonplace. Many species of fish are found in the river, and an increasing number of immigrants arriving from Burma catch and eat them regularly, as they did in their home country. The U.S. EPA last year reduced its restrictions on consuming Cuyahoga River caught fish. Now, more than a dozen breweries in Akron and Cleveland use water sourced from the river to create craft beers. Jesse Doler is the head brewer at R. Shea Brewing, which takes pride in using the Cuyahoga's water.
When you think about the Cuyahoga, the quality of the water, what does it do to or for the beer that makes it special here that we wouldn't get in Toledo or Cincinnati?
The water that we get at the Merriman Valley location is fantastic for maltier beers. We don't really have to do anything to the water chemistry at all because it already sits very well for the maltier styles of beer. Other locations, they have to play with the water chemistry, adding more minerals or salts to balance out of what you want to create, but we're very lucky here. We don't have to add much to it to make a good beer.
So as people hoist a glass to honor the Cuyahoga, the annual festivities surrounding the anniversary of an infamous fire attended by an estimated 7,000 people in recent years remind many of the efforts and the accomplishments of saving a natural resource, which still spurs civic and environmental improvement. In Cleveland, I'm Rick Jackson.
For more from Great Lakes Now, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and follow us on social media.